This is A Different Brilliant, an Aspect podcast focusing on the strengths, interests and aspirations of the autistic community. Open, authentic and engaging conversations about autism. Made for autistic people, parents and carers of children on the autism spectrum. Welcome to A Different Brilliant.
Hello and welcome to Different Brilliant. I am your host, Madeline Jane Lobsey, and I am super excited to be joined today by two extraordinary human beings. Today I am with Sandee Facy, and she's the Head of Business Development for Hidden Disability Sunflower Australia and New Zealand, and Matt Oastler. Now, I really hope I said that the right way, did I?
That was perfect.
Matt Oastler, legend, team leader for the Autism Friendly team in Melbourne for Aspect Autism Spectrum Australia. So Sandee, let me tell you a little bit about Sandee. Apart from the fact that she's a great singer, which by the way, apparently Matt is too, Sandee joined Bayley House in 2021 and is the exclusive distributor of the Hidden Disability Sunflower in Australia and New Zealand. It makes me cry, actually, from the difference that makes. And with a strong background in business development and a personal connection to hidden disabilities through her parents' chronic medical conditions, Sandee is deeply passionate about building partnerships that expand the reach and understanding of the Sunflower program. Outside of work, Sandee is a musician, a songwriter with releases all across every streaming platform, as well as a dog lover. Oh, see, this is the bond, and a family-oriented individual. And then we have Mr. Matt Oastler, and Matt began with Aspect in 2015 as a support worker and has since worked in lots of different roles, including as the regional coordinator and in NDIS compliance. Well, that's a whole other conversation. Matt now leads the Sunflowers in Melbourne project through the Autism Friendly initiative as an autistic person. And Matt brings lived experience and professional insight and inclusive leadership to every part of Matt's work, aka legends. So, welcome. Hello.
Hello.
It's great to have you here. All right, so we're going to have a conversation today because even though they're two different organisations, there's a lot of partnership in those two organisations, and we're going to look at what the program is itself and then how they empower one another to make a difference for the community. So there could be people, you may have noticed if you're watching this YouTube, that I'm wearing a sunflower wristband. That's my preferred way. Sandee has a lanyard on, and also if you just want to hold up the other lanyard, a green sunflower lanyard that people with hidden disabilities, there we go, Matt's going to display it and wear it. He's going to model it for us, perfect, that people with hidden disabilities wear. So let's just get into the background of that because people may not know. So maybe Sandee, if people are new to this, do you want to just explain a little bit about Hidden Disability Sunflowers?
I would love to. Thank you, Madeline, and really appreciate being on the podcast today. It's super exciting. So the initiative began in Gatwick Airport back in 2016 as an aviation initiative, and it quickly rolled out across the globe, and I think we're in over 240 different airports around the world. It reached the shores of Australia and in New Zealand, and it is distributed, as you mentioned, by Bayley House, which is a not-for-profit, beautiful not-for-profit here in Melbourne, supporting the dreams and aspirations of adults with intellectual disability. And that organization has been around for 70 years. So
wow.
We are really, it's a lovely, lovely story.
I just thought about, you said that really lightly, but it was like 240 airports around the world that are running this program. Like that's an enormous reach.
Yeah, and now it's crossed over into all sorts of different sectors, retail, transport, any venue that's a customer-facing venue was the first approach. And now what we're also seeing, which is lovely, is workplace embracing the initiative, which is really powerful.
Yeah, and I think we can get into this a little later, but I think as someone who does live life with a hidden disability and wears one of these sunflowers, I walk into organisations now and I look for them straight away. And I think if you've ever been in an experience where it has been there, it is stark compared to other experiences. So people like me become advocates for the program everywhere that we are. Yeah. So maybe, Matt, you could say a little bit about how Aspect's Autism Friendly team, is involved with this at all, and then we'll get into the lanyard itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess the Autism Friendly team does a lot of consulting with all types of organisations in different sectors, like obviously the Sunflower is across as well. I think we probably even before Sandee was involved with the Sunflower, we worked with one of the airports in Australia who introduced the Sunflower many years ago. And so I guess we've just been involved or known about it for a long time.
Yeah.
I think that we really valued it and we took it to our Aspect think tank, which is a group of autistic adults who give sort of their feedback on practice and so on, to find out, I guess, about the benefits or, do we like it? Is it a good thing? And I think unanimously it was a really positive initiative. So I think we just wanted to be involved with it, partly because I think the benefit of it generally as a visual symbol is that it makes non-visible, non-apparent, hidden disabilities more apparent. And obviously autism is one of the most common hidden disabilities. So I think like one of the common challenges for autistic people is getting support. Obviously it's easier, often it's easier to get support because it's more obvious. And I think that's the benefit that we saw in the Sunflower. Also just being part of a bigger community. Like you said, being able to go, to the airport or get on public transport or go to the shops or go to, a sport venue or something like that and see other people like you that are proud to have a disability. It's really wonderful to be able to. So that's how I guess we got involved. Now I think we, just have a really great relationship with Sandee and the team because we're all working towards the same goal, which is more accessible, inclusive, places. And I think that we work really well together because I think that we do slightly different things.
Yeah, and I think probably at this point it is important to say, Matt and I wear the Sunflower as autistic people, among other things, we don't need to go into right now, but that's the prevailing thing that we wear it for. But that's not the only reason people wear the Sunflower lanyard. So do you want to speak to that? Like it's not an autism thing.
It's quite an expansive list of reasons why you can wear a Sunflower, and the beauty of it is that you never have to disclose why you wear it. It is exactly what Matt was mentioning, is the fact that it is a symbol or a tool to start a conversation.
Yeah.
And to date, there's over 950 different non-visible disabilities and medical conditions. So as an example, someone could have a hip replacement and board a train, public transport, and temporarily utilize the Sunflower as perhaps a way to, have someone say, how can I support you and how can I help you? And that's really what the initiative is about. That's the first question that's asked.
I'm thinking a lot of things is where my brain goes. I'm thinking a lot of things, and I'm thinking about, that thing that you said, Matt, was really powerful about, it's true, when you see someone else with a Sunflower and they're wearing one, there is that immediate connection, and they may not be autistic, but there is that immediate connection of a pride and it takes something to self-advocate, and to be willing to be public about that is a thing. And there is that connection that you have with another human being. But then I also thought about, whatever stigma people have about disability, this is an opportunity to blow that wide open, because you might wear it as someone who's just had a hip replacement, who it's not a lifelong condition or predictably won't be. And, that you can be part of the same thing starts to blow apart the stigma.
That's right.
That's a cool thing. I just got a whole new insight into the Sunflower program. That's really awesome. You said before, Matt, about, you could see the initial reason about how you got involved, but then you could start to see partnerships and collaborations that were going to make sense. So, the people listening today, they're going to be, autistic people predictably. There'll also be parents and carers and teachers and educators and allied health professionals. I would love to sort of pull up the curtain and allow them to see the kind of work that's going on in the background of our community to have people empowered and supported. So why don't you start talking about the collaboration and how you work together, or what are the common goals? Maybe start with the common goals, Matt.
I guess for our team, we're really passionate about, like, our work's sort of based on the social model of disabilities, trying to reduce the barriers in the physical, social environments for people with disability, and obviously particularly autistic people, just because we work for an autism organization, but not just for autistic people. We know there's lots of co-occurring conditions and so on as well. So we, I guess, are really focused on how do we change the physical environments, processes, practices, resources, training of staff to understand how different people work and how to maybe adapt or change, what you do. I think still, even with all of that, there is a component of being able to, say for an airport is a good example because it's a complex environment. It's a really stressful environment. There's really specific processes that are involved that often aren't communicated very well, or, lots of sensory things going on and so on. We can try and fix all of that, but still being able to identify yourself to staff, or staff being able to identify, hey, these people might need a bit extra time or support. I shouldn't just rush them through and get angry at them if they're not doing the right thing. I should maybe identify and check in, hey, what can I do to help? Would you like some headphones? Do you need a bit of extra time? Should I help you, to explain to you what to expect as we go through? That's the power of the sunflower. That's something that we can't do without some type of visual indicator or a way of communicating that, and ideally discreetly, and again, without having to disclose all of your medical information or your diagnosis and so on, which generally doesn't help staff know anyway, because they would have to know about the 900
and something
disabilities and all the different factors. So I think it's the simplicity of it is, hey, I noticed that you're telling me that you might need a bit of extra time, support, or understanding. What can I do to support? I think it just changes that attitude and that approach from other people. So I think that's the really important aspect of it, amongst all of the other work, which is to change the environments and attitudes and so on as well.
Yeah, it really is a perfect mix. And I have the best story of all that about exactly that. Maybe not the best story of all, but it was the best one for me.
We love stories. I love stories.
I've put it up high, haven't I? But it was the best one for me. So I was in an airport, and the people at the counter, we were checking in. We're about to board, and the person there was really young, super young person. And something happened and something changed, and they were changing the details of the flight. And I was already very stressed, And then they changed, and it was loud, all the stuff about the sensory environment. And then they changed the details, and I was getting more and more and more uptight and couldn't talk. I got to a point where I could no longer speak. And I get to the front of the line, and they're all looking at me like, where's your thing? And I'm like, I'm jammed now, I'm gone. And all I did was I was going like this. I held up my wristband and I pointed to it that's all I was capable of. And instantly this really young person stopped everything and said, and could see I couldn't speak and didn't talk to me, which was the perfect thing that they could have done, and then gestured for me to move out of the line, and then gestured for me to take a seat. And just, that's all she did. And then continued to board the passengers. And then after a period of time could see that I'd settled to a degree, or I was less stressed, and came over and explained the situation to me. And it was magic. And I was like, there's this young person who maybe has had a lot of training, maybe he's had no training or very little training, and was still able to engage with me with no idea what I was dealing with. And that's
so powerful.
That's so powerful.
We hear stories like that all the time. Like, it's just fantastic. People traveling with young children, and could be nonverbal, and the fact is that they still pick up on energy. They pick up on how people are treating them, and it's having the sunflowers. It can just make things that much easier, and it's discreet as well, which is you can wear it loud and proud, happily, or you can have the person approach you in a discreet fashion, similar to what the young person did for you. That's fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. And I think, probably what we should talk about is why this collaboration works so well. So, when someone let's say someone listening goes, I wish this was at my work. Right? So, Sandee, what does that look like for them? Like how do they get involved? And then we'll talk about why the collaboration completely empowers that.
Yeah, we have a beautiful team at Hidden Disabilities Sunflower, small but mighty. And we encourage businesses to subscribe and on board with us. And through onboarding, they receive a training, very short awareness video, and that they can load up onto their learning management system to train their staff. And then also there are some resources, some podcast information, and an index that Matt's team have also joined in and collaborated on the autism section of the index. But it's just information that people can heighten the awareness around non-visible disability. So once a company onboards and joins and gets moving along with training their staff, a lot of times companies will say, and airports and whoever we're dealing with will say, wow, we just talked about this yesterday, didn't we? What's next? Like they get really thirsty to find out how to support, and much to what you were saying, it may not be knowledgeable about all 950 disabilities, and it's more about supporting people, et cetera. But, having that extra lens of expertise. And so that's why we work with Matt and his team, because it's fantastic to be able to do a warm intro, and then it's, they take it from there.
Yeah, so the company, they subscribe and they get the lanyards and the pins and the stuff, and they watch this short introduction video, and it really opens their eyes to a world of hidden disability. And then they go, okay, but how do we really go for it here? Like, what else do we do? So I think that's where you come in, Matt. And then what kind of things do you provide in organisations?
There's sort of two areas, which is sort of similar to what Sandee's talking about. Obviously, like generally customer-facing side of things, and increasingly the employment side of things.
Yes,
so I might
100%.
Talk about the customer-facing bit first. Our team is predominantly autistic people. It's really important to us, I guess, like our model is working in partnership, both between autistic and non-autistic people, and bridging that like double empathy gap, but also between our team and our partner organizations. I think, we have some expertise, but also the airports know how to run an airport,
Yes.
The sports stadiums know how to run a great event and a great stadium. So I guess it's working on with each individual organization on how they work best. But the types of things that we do generally are assessing environments or programs. So that involves autistic people doing a walkthrough or participating. So just recently I did trampolining at the circus because we're working with the National
Such
Institute
a bad job, Matt.
of the Circus Arts. So I had to go and test it out. We have to do it and feel it and experience it to be able to then give feedback about what some of the common challenges might be, or what some of the strategies might be. That's generally, like, all of our work is based on what we call our autism friendly framework. So that's a pretty comprehensive framework that we feel constitutes good autism friendly practice. That's generally it's not like teaching strategies, or there's heaps more about autism that we don't cover, but it's generally making environments or places more autism friendly. So those assessments, we write a big report which has a bunch of recommendations that generally leads to developing different resources. And
just to pause you for a sec, so for people who've never seen it, it's like when Matt says experience it, it's like, what does it smell like? What is the lighting like? How does it feel walking through here? Can I tell where to go? Is there signage that shows me what's happening? So it's a complete experience of an environment to be able to look for what works and maybe what doesn't work.
Yeah. So because I think a lot of people think that autism is just a sensory condition, which is not the case at all. That is one component and one big component, but making it sensory friendly as much as possible. Think about how the environment is organized and structured and supports, your wayfinding and that sort of thing. Understanding even just beforehand what would be helpful for people to know before they come.
Very
good.
And
again, that's the type of resource that we might develop. So things like a visual story which is sort of a picture-based narrative of like planning beforehand. What do I need to know? How do I get there? What's it going to look like? Who's going to be there? What am I supposed to do? What do I need to be aware of? Things like sensory maps as well, which help you to plan your journey beforehand. So a bunch of different resources. We do things like training, obviously, as well, and also just helping to develop different sort of events and initiatives. So things like adapted sports programs, relaxed hours, like at the museum, for instance, familiarization tours of stadiums or of airports, so that you can sort of practice before you go. So there's a whole bunch of different things, I guess, that we do. Just the employment stuff as well. It's reasonably similar, where we can do assessments and so on. But obviously, there's a whole set of different conditions being employed, like right throughout the employee life cycle. So developing, and we've tested this in our team and at Aspect as well, is inclusive interviewing. Again, sending the questions beforehand, so that people are prepared and we're not trying to trick them and that sort of thing. So there's lots of different practices, I guess, that we that benefit us in our team and at Aspect that we then hopefully share with other organisations.
Yeah, so you can hear the perfect marriage of the two things, because one makes what's not visible visible in a beautiful, kind of discreet, gracious way. And then likewise, in the background, then you get to go in and do all this work with the people and with the environment itself, so that people like me can walk into an environment and go, why am I so relaxed? Well, probably because all of these things have happened that I don't even necessarily see, including people who aren't autistic. This is all about universal design practice, a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice that you say that, because like hopefully you wouldn't notice the things that have been removed or changed or whatever, but hopefully you feel that feeling when you get in where you're like, I feel really welcome here. I feel like people are really friendly and understanding. I feel like people are willing to adapt and change what they do. I feel like the environment, it makes sense. I know where to go. I'm not stressed or confused. But I think the one of the interesting things that I find about our work and our framework is that, autism is so diverse that we need a framework that encompasses as much difference as possible.
Yeah.
And to me, that also includes everybody. We all experience the sensory world. Often it just impacts autistic people more.
Or go somewhere new where you don't know where you're going, or all of those things.
That's right. So they just impact some people more significantly.
100%.
But the adaptations benefit everybody. And I think that's what I find really interesting in what we do. Same with the sunflower as well. I hope it's not just like, how do we single out people with disability, because I don't think it's that. In fact, for me, just bringing that awareness to other people that did you know there are disabilities that you can't see? Maybe you should be kind and patient and offer support to everybody, or not judge someone for not being able to talk.
Be a little bit more human.
And I think that's the thing that I've personally noticed too, is the beauty of the intersectionality of it. Like, and what I mean by that is, that mentality of removing your bias about someone and, releasing your opinions and offering kindness. We're talking about disability, but a human being is a complex series of all sorts of things, and maybe not even disability, but that actually, I've worked with staff that have been trained by the Autism Friendly team and run the Sunflower program in their organisation, and they say things like, oh, we're just kinder to everyone, out of doing that work. Like, we're altered about the way we interact with people. So, look, I know there's going to be people listening to this going, well, that is not what it's like at my school or at my bus stop or in my, they're going to be listening going, okay, it's not like that. And it's not. That's the point of the work that you're doing.
I was going to say, it takes a village.
They may not have even experienced what it's like to know. I don't know, maybe it's worse once you know how good it can be. But they may not have experienced it. So let's talk about a great version of this, or maybe let's talk about a few great versions of what it's like when that partnership works so well together in a venue. What happens? So do you want to start us off, Sandee? Like, where's somewhere that you're like, we're so proud of this and the work we've done together?
Would you like to start with the MCG?
Yeah.
I think we've done some really great work with.
So that's the Melbourne Cricket Ground, yes?
So,
for anyone who
so the
doesn't know.
MCC, the Disability and Inclusion and Accessibility team there is led by Asher Nolan, and she's done just such a wonderful job. And again, making it a welcoming place for everyone, I think is really, really important. Elabet, whether you wear a sunflower or not, you feel comfortable. And Matt's done some really great work with them. They've joined the program years and years ago. And as I was mentioning, for many years, the sports museum was closed during game on field. Whenever there was something going on field, they'd shut the sports museum down. Now they've made it a reprieve and a place for people to go so families can enjoy sporting events and whatnot and have that place that they can seek for.
Like a quiet room.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's, it just gives people more options. And then, with the intent, and we're strong believers that, we want places to be sunflower friendly 24/7, right? Like respectfully, there's quiet hours. I completely understand why there are those things, those times. However, it would be lovely if there's, ways that people can, go on their own watch or their own time frame to experience different places. So the particular event that I thought was really amazing was how the MCG handled the Taylor Swift concert by having a familiarization day, and they actually won the Inclusion Project of the Year at the Australian Disability Network event, Impact 2025, about 2 weeks ago. So I was really happy to see that. And
what's a familiarization day? I think that would be great to speak to as well.
Well, maybe I'll talk, there's a few different opportunities or levels, and I think that's what you're talking about, Sandee. I think we know that, obviously it'd be nice if the MCG was accessible all the time. That would mean it would be quiet.
That's right.
Which is not possible.
Which would upset a few footy fans and cricket fans.
And not ideal as well. Obviously we're not trying to take away our opportunities. Some people will love it, but so that's where the benefit of a quiet room happens, is that often it's a stepping stone where you can come to the event. You can still, you're still part of the big event, but you're able to come and go to the quiet room as needed.
Yeah, as a family too, which is really lovely.
That's right. And so often that might be a stepping stone for you to be able to come back at a future time and continue wearing the lanyard, but maybe needing less support or that opportunity to go to the quiet room. So that, I guess, adds to the ability to come multiple times. So a familiarization tour generally is being able to come to the environment beforehand in a less stressful time.
Without the crowds, without the noise.
Pressure.
It's like a try before you ride.
That's right. So you're able to come and understand the environment, locate yourself within it, understand what to expect, find your seat so you know where you're going next time. It reduces a lot of the anxiety.
How far away is the quiet room from your seat? Work that out.
Right.
So anything that you can do to prepare. We know autistic people generally seem to thrive when we're prepared, when we know what to expect, what we're expected to do, how things work. And a lot of that anxiety comes from the unpredictability. There's so much unknown that could go wrong, that could happen, that will likely happen. And so being able to have those plans of, if it does go wrong, where can I go?
Spatial awareness, everything.
And it just reduces that, that stress, so that when you come, you can enjoy yourself. You can be immersed in it rather than worrying about all those different things that could go wrong. So the Famil tour is, that ability to be able to...
The Famil tour. You said that it was this cool thing.
It's the shorthand.
That's when the legend goes on tour.
The Famil tour, otherwise known as familiarization session. So this is, you all say this so lightly, but I know that happened, a lot of winning an award for their inclusive practice happened as a reaction to something. So, I don't know if anyone knew, but at the time, Chloe Hayden, who's a very famous autistic advocate, she had a terrible experience at a venue going to a concert and was really like, this is just not okay that I can't, enjoy going to a concert. And rather than deal with that in a defensive way or in a ignoring it way, that the MCG 100% stepped up and completely looked at their practices, including having things like the Famil Day.
Famil Day.
I think it's important to say that that bad experience wasn't at the MCG, it was at another venue.
No, yes, it was at another venue,
But I think the benefit of the MCG, and again, this is where it's nice working with organizations with the expertise where they come with ideas and systems and resources and that sort of thing as well. where we could talk about, hey, we want to make sure that we offer these opportunities for everybody, that we want to, so what can we do? Can we develop some preparation information like a visual story to help explain for people anytime they're coming? Can we develop a quiet room that is available at all events, concerts, football games, and so on?
Improve websites.
Train staff. Like, how can we do this authentically and meaningfully and embedded in our systems and our constant practice? Because I think that probably another missing component often in these types of initiatives is often the lack of people with disability being involved in that process, in the decision making and so on. And I think that was probably one of the challenges that happened for Chloe at the other place, was maybe there wasn't a whole process that involved people with disability to address these potential issues before they happen. But also there's lots of stakeholders and lots of complexity. So I think part of that issue was security guards, and often security guards are contracted, by the organization, and that organization is not responsible for how they, how they work, but that impacts the experience. So there is a lot of complexity to these things happening. And again, great organizations like MCG are able to get all of that, fit it together.
And that takes something. Like, they've got to be, I think this is what I've discovered too, is in all of those great organisations, there is at a minimum one fierce champion for what's possible. And they go, okay, well, it's complex and we've got all these different vendors and stakeholders, and okay, so what? Let's go have the conversations with them to partner.
Right there, Madeline, you're 100%. In the 3.5 or 4 years that I've been working with businesses and organizations, councils, government entities, federal government entities, it's usually one person. Now, mind you, they do spread out the stakeholder map at some point because, they need to take some of the work off their shoulders, but it's usually one person that champions it. It could come from an employee driven group in a larger organization, or it could be someone who's, leading D&I. But yeah, it's just fantastic.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. D&I,
Yes. And every business, every council, every member for a Sunflower member has their own story. Yeah. And that's why I love to do the work that we've been doing, is that everyone's story is unique, but yet there's some commonality as well. So.
Yeah, well, I think compassion and kindness and they're all common. You know, that's the commonality. And the desire to be included and participate in life. I think that's it's a paradigm shift, right? Yeah.
Because, especially in large corporates, there's such a mentality of, driving revenue and, got to meet this KPI, got to do this, got to do that, got to do that. But what about my colleague? What about ourselves, like that need to work toward well-being and being kind to one another. And I think that there needs to be more of that in the workplace.
I think we haven't talked about the stats yet as well, but I think it's interesting to do that because it's not just a nice to have. It's not just like, let's help the small percentage of people.
It's a huge percentage.
1 in 5 Australians has a disability, so 20%. So if you think about the workforce, like wherever you're working.
You can't go anywhere where there's not people with disability.
1 in 5. Yeah. Approximately 80 to 90% of those are non-visible or non-apparent, like hidden disabilities. So there's a really, really large percentage of people that are in the workplace, that are your colleagues, that are your family, or that could be you in the future, because it's more likely as you get older to have something permanent or temporary happen. So it's again not just a nice to have for a small percentage of people. It's just that's what we should be doing for everybody, because again, ultimately it makes it easier for us too. So.
Yeah, and I think if you do want to talk bottom line, there's also all the statistics that say retention increases, well-being at work increases, productivity increases.
Inclusive teams. Yeah, that's exactly right.
The money goes up.
Yeah, there's statistics
there's also
that.
Like, it's not just a kindness project. It's a workability project that has life work,
and it also mitigates risk. So in an airport situation or in an environment where there's a lot happening, if security teams are if they have had the training, and I'm proud to say that there are a couple national security companies now that have joined, which I think is super exciting. Major security. They were elusive, and now they're not. They see the value of why they need to be aware of the sunflower. But to be able to ask someone, how can I help you, prior to a situation escalating, you can't put a dollar figure.
You can't.
You can't.
Well, you can, and in some ways you can put dollar figures to other parts of it, because I know, like, Matt and I just collaborated on a project at the Melbourne Museum, the Create Space Arts Initiative, and at that particular, all the work we did in the background, which included their sunflower organisation, we on the night of the event that we were working towards, 590 people came. Great. But what's a great stat is 78% of them had never been to the museum before. Now, there's 78% of that 590 people bought a ticket to come to a venue that they would not ordinarily participate in.
Bingo.
So this is not just kindness. This is far beyond.
Yeah.
And generally, if we've had a good experience, if those barriers have been removed to be able to come for the first time, to get familiar with the space in an adapted way, have that support and that confidence, often we're pretty loyal as well, and we'll tell everyone else about it. And again, we hear stories all the time, like MCG, where families will say, we've never been able to go to this event, or Disney's relaxed performances for Beauty and the Beast. We've never been able to go as a family to an event.
Yeah, and that's wild, isn't it? And I mean, that throughout that whole project that I was just talking about, I heard, I don't know how many times, 50, 100 times, families say, we buy tickets and have to leave. Or we buy tickets, we come to something and we only make it halfway through, through a whole day event, or maybe even an hour. And through all of that work, they were like, we've been here 4 hours, we haven't left. They don't want to leave. That's life-altering for people.
Yeah.
And imagine that same thing translating into workplaces. We don't want to leave. We like being here. Look how productive I am.
And hopefully we can see those positive benefits of being able to do this seriously. Like, that's really serious stuff. I think if most people listening have families and you have never been able to go out, think about that. But also, thinking about the poor outcomes. So say again, airports are easy targets, so apologies, but they're stressful for everybody. I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes.
But if you get things wrong, so if you're not wearing a sunflower lanyard and the security guards don't understand that you just maybe are overwhelmed and non-verbal, like you were talking about before, you might not be able to fly. You might be security might take you somewhere. Police might be called. That's protocol. A really common, experience of people that people assume you're on drugs or alcohol or something like that, and you're hospitalized. When really, if someone just took a minute and said, "Hey, come take a seat and I'll look after you," it makes that difference between going to jail or not being able to fly, not being able to visit, having a bad experience, never coming back. To being able to have a wonderful time and staying for 4 or 6 hours with your whole family. So it's a really stark difference.
Yeah. And I think this subject we could talk about a lot. There's a lot that we can talk about, but I'm thinking of the people listening, and I think there's a couple of things I can hear. One is you can be a champion. Anywhere you are, you can be a champion. If you're dissatisfied with the environment, you can be a champion. And you can do it in a way that doesn't take enormous energy. Like, if you just reach out to hidden disabilities, that's like an opening to a door of collaboration and partnership and people working with you. And it's an opening in your organisation to start a conversation. And, you start that, and then there's a little groundswell, and then you have the opportunity to reach out to Autism Friendly at Aspect and build something. And you'll be surprised at how, people go, we can't do it because it costs too much. It just doesn't. Or we can't put all those accommodations in. You really can. They're all really simple. And that people listening to this could be that champion and be part of a global movement. You've
absolutely hit the nail on the head. I think that all it takes is one person to make change. And I know this is a cliche, but I've been saying this since day dot. When the tide rises, we all rise. And we're in this together.
One of the other benefits that I've noticed being a sunflower wearer is being my own champion as well. I think a lot of the time it's hard to advocate for your needs, and to be able to go, like, you can just point at it if the person knows about it. But even if they don't, I've had many experiences where I said, hey, I'm not sure if you understand what this means, but this means I have a hidden disability. I need a bit extra time, support, and understanding. So I think there's those macro and micro levels. I think being able to be a champion for everybody, and a leader in your organization for DEI and all that sort of stuff. I think it's really important that everybody does that, but also there are ways, hopefully these things help you to be able to advocate for yourself and get your 100%. Needs met in the moment too, discreetly and respectfully. And
well, I think for everybody, it would be great. Sometimes it's easy to focus on all of the challenges, and other times, I think it really matters to us to hear stories about real change and difference that's being made. So why don't we give them, coming attractions? What are the sort of upcoming things that you're allowed to say that you're working on together?
I mean, pretty much anything really. I know for us, like, we're doing a bit of work in Melbourne, particularly. So we've just started working with places like Football Victoria, Basketball Victoria, which I just learned recently have the most participation essentially in Australia in sport. Apparently they have 450,000 games of basketball per week.
Wow. Wait, how many are on a court? 10? That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
Goodness.
So I guess becoming, sunflower friendly and sharing that information with people. Hopefully there's more people that are aware. You feel safer to be able to go and participate. Places like the National Institute of the Circus Arts, which I mentioned before, Public Libraries Victoria, Orienteering Australia as well. So a bunch of interesting, novel, different ways of engaging with physical activity and culture and so on. I think one that's probably interesting and probably, a bit more novel in a way is Legoland Discovery Centre. So we're just starting work with them. We've just been doing an assessment and giving feedback and so on, starting to develop some resources. But I know that that the Sunflower internationally and Lego sort of have been partnering as well. So I think that's an interesting way, I guess, of spreading the word around hidden disabilities, but also then making the venue more accessible for people to go and participate in their love of Lego and be supported as well. So I don't know, Sandy, if you want to talk more about how Lego and Sunflower are related.
Yeah, so Lego globally is partnered with the UK, and you can find, which I think Madeline has already mentioned as well, you can find
a minifig.
Some minifig, yep.
Yes,
and you have one with a lanyard. I think there's one with a T-shirt with a sunflower on it. And trust me, every time I pass a Lego anywhere, it could be in the airport, could be anywhere, I'm always popping my head in going, have you got the guys out of the box yet? Because at the moment, they're only available
in an airport
kit.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, it sounds like it's sort of a cute and fun thing, but I promise you, anytime there's representation, it's powerful. Like, it's so powerful and, very, very in a very generalized way, the autistic community does seem to have a particular love of Lego. So, it's pretty cool. Well, thank you for being revolutionaries and champions and standing for a new possibility for people, that they can experience inclusion and kindness and understanding wherever they go, and, go forth and multiply. And thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Madeline.
Thanks for listening to A Different Brilliant, an Aspect podcast focusing on the strengths, interests and aspirations of the autistic community. If you would like to learn more, visit our website, aspect.org.au, to listen to past episodes or send us a message. Make sure to like or subscribe to A Different Brilliant on your podcast app.